Welcome to the Premiere Pro CS3 podcast on the DMN. I am your host, Jeff Shell. In this week's podcast, we're going to look at how to edit a multi-camera sequence in Premiere Pro CS3. Now, when I say multi-camera, what I'm really talking about is an event where you have multiple cameras set up and all of the cameras are shooting the exact same thing, like at a theater or a sporting event or a wedding. So if we come up here to my project panel, I have 3 clips in my video bin. The first clip is a close-up, the second clip is a camera from house left, and the third clip is a wide shot from house right. So the first thing we want to do is place all of these clips into a sequence together, and then we're going to synchronize them so that they are all aligned at the exact same time. Now you can put them in any of the tracks that you want. The most important consideration is that you take the clip that has the best audio and you put it in track video 1, and we'll show you why a little bit later on. So I'm going to take this house right clip, which is the camera that I had my microphones going into, so it's kind of the one recording all of the audio. I need to put that in track video 1. And then I'm going to take house left and put it in track video 2, and I'm going to take house right and put it in track video 3. Okay, so now I've got my 3 clips. Next, I need to synchronize them in time. So what we have to do is find some event. It's best to look for something that happens quickly and sharply so that we can find that in all 3 of the clips and align them based on that event. So to do this, I'm going to come into my timeline. I'm going to turn off the eyeballs next to all of my clips. Now I'm only going to turn on the eyeball next to track video 3. And what I want to do is find some event that happens that's a quick event. Okay, let's say for example, this actor hits the other actor's forehead. Okay, let's say right about there. Their hands are about at the same level, so I know that from whatever camera angle, I should see that their hands are at the same level, and I should be able to find this easily on all 3 of my clips. So I select the clip on track video 3, I come to my marker menu, and I say set clip marker next available numbered. And that'll place a little clip marker right here in the timeline, and I'm going to move my CTI so you can see it. There it is, a little clip. It's got a number 0 in it, which means it's marker number 0. And now we turn off the eyeball for track video 3, and we turn it on for the clip in track 2, and we look for that same event. Okay, so I'm just going to go frame at a time here. Here's where he hits the head. Here's where their arms are just about lined up, I'd say, right there. And I'm going to zoom in here on my timeline so you can see what's going on. So I'm zoomed in as far as I can. So we're close in time, but we're just a little bit off. So I'm going to say marker, set clip marker, next available numbered. And the marker for clip number 2 is a little bit to the right here. Now I've turned on the eyeball for track video 1. I've selected that clip in the timeline, and I've got to move my cursor around until I find that event. And this one happens much later in the timeline. I'm going to say right about there is probably good. So I come up to my marker menu, set clip marker, next available numbered. All right, now I'm going to zoom back out, and here we have my 3 markers. They're all at different times. So now what I do is I select all 3 of my clips in the timeline, and I'm going to synchronize them. Now whichever clip is the target track is the one that they're going to be synchronized to. So for example, if I come over here and I click the name video 1, you see how that track got lighter. That means these other markers are going to be shifted to the right in the timeline to line up with this marker here. If I selected track video 2, the clip on track video 1 would shift to the left until its markers are aligned with the one on track video 2. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm going to use track video 1. I've got all of my clips selected. Now I come to the top menu and I choose clip, synchronize. Now a window pops up and says, alright, how do you want to synchronize it? I tell it I want to synchronize based on the numbered markers I've placed, and they're all number 0. And I click OK. And now if we look in the timeline, all 3 of these markers are aligned to the exact same point in time. To illustrate what happens, I'm going to zoom in to the very beginning of this sequence here, and you can see that Premiere Pro automatically shifted these clips later in the timeline, so they're not starting at 0 anymore, because we wanted to make sure that their markers were aligned. Okay, so I turned their eyeballs back on, and now we're ready to make our multi-camera monitor sequence. So what I need to do is make a new sequence. Just like I would any other sequence, I'm going to call this multi-camera. It really only needs one video track, and it really only needs one audio track. Okay, so now I've got a new sequence with one video track and one audio track. And now what I'm going to do is take that first sequence that has all 3 of my clips that are synchronized, and we're going to nest that first sequence into my new multi-camera sequence. Let me zoom in here a little bit. The next step is to tell Premiere Pro this new clip that we've just placed in the multi-camera sequence is actually a multi-camera sequence, right? Because it has 3 tracks, each one with its own camera. So what I'm going to do is select multi-camera and enable. So now Premiere Pro knows that this clip is actually made up of multi-camera tracks. Now I'm going to come to my window menu. I'm going to say I would like to see the multi-camera monitor, please. And this opens up the floating multi-camera monitor. And let me quick give you a rundown of how this multi-camera monitor works. I'm going to jump forward in the timeline just so we can see what's going on. Okay, imagine if you will that this multi-camera monitor is divided in half, right down the middle. The left side shows you your source clips that you can choose from, and the right side shows you what the audience will see, or whichever clip you currently have selected. Remember, you can have up to 4 cameras, so if we look on the left side of the multi-camera monitor, we see that this is actually a grid of 4. We don't have a 4th camera, so the 4th spot is empty, it's pure black, but we can see the other 3 spots each hold one of my 3 cameras that we synchronized back in the first step. It's actually really easy to use Premiere Pro's multi-camera monitor on the fly. All I'm going to do is hit the play button, and as it plays, I'm just going to click on whichever clip I want to use, and as I click on it, you can see that it changes on the right side, so this means now that the audience is looking at the clip on the right side. Now if I want to change it again, I click back up on another camera, and the audience sees a different camera. Now I come to the other camera on the right side. Now when I'm watching, I'm going to move down here and click on that camera. And all I'm doing is over and over and over just clicking a new camera. So it's actually quite easy. So believe it or not, with Premiere Pro, the easiest part is actually using the multi-camera monitor. The hardest part is what I showed you before with the synchronizing and getting all of your clips lined up so that you can prep everything to be a multi-camera sequence. Let's go ahead and stop that. Alright, so I've just been doing it on the fly, clicking as we play. Now what I can also do is use the jump buttons. So let's say I'm not quite happy in hindsight with some of my choices. I'm going to click the Go to Previous Edit Point button, which is also the same as me hitting page up or page down on my keyboard. I'm just jumping between each time I take a different camera, and I can choose for that next scene to use a different camera. So now when I hit play, we're seeing the scene from the house left camera. Now if I jump to the next edit point I make, maybe I want to change this one back to camera number 1. So that's how you tweak which camera you're using after you've already made the initial edit. Now if I want though, I can also hit play again and go back and do it on the fly by overwriting just by clicking a new one. And as you can see, when it's red, it means I'm in overwrite mode. So it's only going to pay attention to what I'm clicking on. When the box around the camera is yellow, it means it's in read mode, and it's going to read whatever camera you currently have selected. Right there, I didn't click anything, it just automatically used the next camera. However, when the camera is in red mode, it means you are in write mode, and it's only going to change if you change it. I'm going to go ahead and close that monitor down. Now there's another way you can also do this. If you don't have the multi-camera monitor up and you want to quickly make a change, let's say for example I don't like this wide shot right there, you can right click on just that clip and you can say multi-camera, instead use camera number 1, and then we'll switch to camera number 1. Now the last thing I want to make sure I address is the question of audio. So if I open the multi-camera monitor back up and I come to the wing menu, I can say audio follows video, or I can have the audio not follow the video. If you have checked audio follows video, there's a little checkbox next to it, and the audio will use whatever camera you currently have selected. So right now we'll be listening to the audio attached with this camera. If I click this clip, we'll be listening to the audio attached to this camera, and so on. Or if I do not choose audio follows video, so it's not checked, then the audio will stay always at camera number 1 here in the upper left corner. Even if I'm clicking on a different camera, we'll see a different video in the program monitor, but we'll still be listening to the audio from the clip on track 1. Well, there you go. I hope you've learned a lot about the multi-camera monitor. I will see you next week.